According to some estimates, as much as 80% of all job-related learning occurs outside formal and vocational education and training. There are plenty of informal or non-formal learning opportunities to acquire important competencies, for instance, while learning on the job, or in leisure time, during volunteering, in sports and cultural activities, during civic activities, in European projects and learning partnerships. The acquisition of key competencies takes place nearly everywhere in informal and non-formal learning. According to the European Commission, it is recognized as the most important way of learning on the lifelong learning pathway of each European citizen. Learning in mobility is one of the most appropriate environments to acquire social and personal competencies. Among others, for instance, customer orientation, intercultural communication, teamwork, flexibility and autonomy. Mobility learning takes place in work placements, youth and senior volunteering programs, pupils and students exchanges, job shadowing, internships and apprenticeships all over Europe and beyond. The acquisition of key competencies in mobility is more than sheer accumulation of knowledge. It is an activity-related, continuous process of putting knowledge into action and involves not only enhancement of professional knowledge, but simultaneously the development of organizational, personal and social competencies. Most employers will agree that especially social and personal competencies are of increasing importance in a service-rendering international and mobile economy, both for enterprises and individual learners. However, the validation of those social, personal and organizational competencies is very difficult because here, flexible and context-specific reference systems are needed to assess and evidence learners' performances and potentials. Formal validation, like with school marks or with credit transfer systems, cannot thoroughly contribute to a high transparency of those key competencies because they cannot be linked to school marks and credit points. This is why additional input is needed when it comes to validating and evidencing organizational, social and personal skills and competencies in mobility learning. This is the starting point of the project VILMA, Validation of Informal Learning in Mobility Actions, in which the flexible and individualized Level 5 validation system was transferred and piloted in more than 15 European mobility learning projects.
Level 5 is a validation system to assess competences acquired in informal learning situations. And it is level 5 because it has 5, let's say, quality levels. So you can, of course, you are at some point in the beginning of a course or in the beginning of a certain learning situation, and then we assess your level after the course or after the learning situation or whatever, for whatever you do.
But we have a focus on competences such as personal, social competences that normally are difficult to assess. I give some examples: intercultural communication, diversity management, teamwork, creativity, self-reflection are just some to name that normally are very difficult to assess, and we developed level 5 above all for assessing these competences. Each competence has 3 dimensions. The cube represents those 3 dimensions: the affective, activity and the cognitive dimension, and each dimension has 5 competence levels, and the competence development is visualized by different volumes. So, and you can use different kinds of assessment method. You could use interviews, peer assessment, self-evaluation, etc., etc. So it's up to you, or it's up to the one who wants to assess competences to find those assessment methods that are most appropriate to the target group, to the learners, and to the learning setting.
Each learning setting can be divided in 3 phases. The first phase is normally a planning phase where you think about what your learners should learn or which competences they should acquire. The second phase is the activity phase, the action where the learning takes place. And the third phase is the check phase, where you check what the learner has learned and what maybe you can improve in your learning setting. The level 5 system is corresponding to these three phases. In the first phase, we describe the learning project and the competences that should be acquired. In the second phase, we choose those competences from an inventory. In the third phase, for each of those competences, a specified reference system is delivered. And in the fourth phase, we assess the learning. This can be also done in a self-assessment or in an observation or in different other assessment methods that we choose or you choose. And in the fifth phase, we finally evidence the competence development of the learners, and this can be also documented in a certificate.
So in the framework of VILMA, we piloted level 5 in a variety of mobility actions, among which we had a German mobility project called IDA, where young people went to Malta for up to 4 months. We had a couple of senior volunteering mobilities. We had also some Erasmus students who went from Lithuania to Turkey. So really a broad variety of mobility actions. What we could observe in all the various learning settings was that the learners themselves become a lot more aware of the learning, so they become aware of the competences they acquire, which are these social, personal and organizational competences. That was a very strong effect that we could observe.
I do see a huge potential for level 5 in assessing mobility in society in Europe. Mobility of different types of target groups becomes more and more important and will ever increase its importance in the coming years. For instance, Barroso launched this big initiative, Youth on the Move, so everybody will be on the move or is already on the move.